So, yeah, I think we'll start now. So welcome everybody to the 7th webinar. I mean, it used to be in real life. Now we have it in GoToWebinar. But welcome, it's the 7th session that we organize for the European institutions. So let me go to the second slide. So this is the agenda that you have already seen. So we will have a testimonial from Yasmin from DG Mare, who will show the dashboards they created on Blue Economy with Qlik. Then we will have a Qlik specialist who will present the new features of Qlik. Then we'll have a small coffee break. We'll only have 5 minutes because we had to keep the whole presentation under 2 hours. So 5 minutes, and then we will show predictive analytics. Then we will have a presentation from Platform Manager, and then from Vizlib, and then we will close at 4. So we will see if we will have time for questions. We have a slot of 10 minutes after the Qlik presentation for questions, and then, but if there are questions at the end, we can also reply. And also, if you have any kind of questions on licensing or anything, you can always send me an email directly. So I will reply later on. So here is a quick overview of what we have been doing. So we have been collaborating with the European institutions for over 10 years now. We have more than 25 DGs from the European Commission that we work with, and some other agencies and also other bodies of the European institutions. So I have 2 very small announcements for you. The first one is that QlikSense tokens will no longer be sold next year. So for everybody who still has tokens, and this is the old licensing model of QlikSense, you will not be able to add additional tokens or viewer tokens next year. So if you want to add licenses next year to your existing pool, we will have to convert them first to the new model, which is professional users and analyzers, and then which is free, the conversion, and then we will add to those. And on the pricing, so you know that you have a discount of almost 50% on the official Qlik price list, and that is valid until the 31st of December this year. So if there is anything you need, now is the moment. We don't know what the discount will be for next year, which we'll have to renegotiate with Qlik and Digit next year. So I will just check if Yasmin managed to connect. I don't see her in the list of participants. So what I suggest we do, yeah, no, she's not in here. Just want to be sure she's not connected, and I don't see her, but I don't think she is. So we'll have to move to the second presentation and then come back to Yasmin afterwards.
Maybe a quick explanation about how this environment works. If you have questions, there is a question panel on the bottom right, normally of your screen, where you can ask your questions, and then we will see the questions and we will answer them. So feel free, if you have any question during the presentation, to ask also your question through this panel.
Yeah, thank you. We will try to reply. Yeah, otherwise there will always be time afterwards. Don't worry, I will read all your emails afterwards. Okay, no, she's not.
I think, Sandrina, I think you can see the questions. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah, there are none for the moment, but okay, so I think we will start. Is Daniel here? Yes. So we're going to start with the second presentation then. Something had to go wrong, you know. So this is the new features in Qlik. So we have Daniel Lumkeman, who is a pre-sales solution architect at Qlik. So Daniel, I will give you presenters mode so you can show your slides. You should have it now. Yeah,
Now I am unmuted. Yeah,
no, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Can hear you.
Ah, great. So then I will go into presentation mode and now click show my screen.
Yeah, and feel free to share your webcam if you like.
Yeah. For some reason I can't put it on right now.
Well, no problem. We hear you, so that's
okay.
that's the most important.
And
that's the most important thing.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Honor to kick this session off unexpectedly, but yeah, what I will be talking to you about in the next half an hour is the things that are new in, or actually what we have been developing the last year within Qlik, and that has been a lot. Of course, part of what we're presenting today is part of roadmap. So, some features that might be discussed are eventually going to be a bit changed once deployed. Not for certain, but just to make the legal disclaimer that the features that will be discussed might be subject to change. Before we actually dive into what we have been developing this last year, I think it's wise to shortly touch on the product strategy that we have within Qlik right now. And this is just to give you a sense of where Qlik is heading and what we find important to be focusing on in our development. And that always starts, I mean, this slide has been here, maybe, well, not specifically this slide, but this story has been relevant for IT, I think, in the past 10 years. But even still today, it's still important that, and we see that we have a data challenge in all organizations around the world where people are still struggling to make actionable data available to those who need it, and especially when they need it, and let alone turn that data into real business value. And even in our, let me see if I can close this. No, I don't want to quit. Yeah. Where was I? Yes, even research shows us that only 10% of business relevant data is actually used for analysis. And there are some other statistics there, which I always find interesting, that 32% of executives say they can create value from data, which is still not a lot. And even 24% of business decision makers feel that they are data literate. So that means that there's a large portion of people that are using data in their organization, but they don't really feel confident that they're using it in the right way. So that leaves us with a great opportunity. And that's exactly where Qlik with its strategy or newly formed strategy wants to focus on. We want to focus on that opportunity that lies in front of us. And simply put, we want to enable organizations to turn all that data into business value, and we do that through 3 components, and you will see these components come back in in all the things that we are developing and investing in right now. So one of those key components is data integration portfolio. It helps you bring all the pieces and all your sources together, all the way from raw data to ready data, and basically we're trying to create a pipeline that enables you to or that enables your analytics to turn that data into insight. And the second part is the data analytics. So the data integration is creating that data pipeline that feeds into the data analytics. And that's where we do, of course, all of our analysis. And then thirdly, it's data literacy, where we are focusing on. And that's really making sure that people that are doing the analytics really know what they're doing, and really help them discover even more types of analytics and more ways to interpret their data and work with their data. So if we have these 3, let's say, key components of our strategy, so how do we do it? How do we help organizations create that business value? And basically, if you look at those 3 key components that we discussed earlier, the data integration, the data analytics, and the data literacy, our story around that is that we want to help you free the data And then once you have freed it, we want to help you find that data. And through data analytics, we want to help you understand the data. And through data literacy, where we help you better understand analytics, we try to help you make actionable decisions on that data. And that basically gets us to a state what we call active intelligence, and this is kind of the flow of the story that we're trying to incorporate in our product strategy. So, having said that, what then is our vision if we're talking about active intelligence? And I've highlighted the most important things in green, and that's basically that we try to enable customers to shift from passive to active BI. So what you will see is that in our development, there's a lot more artificial intelligence involved. We don't want people to just sit down and look at, let's say, static tables, with a little bit of filtering here and there. No, we want to actively help end users understand their data and act on it. We try to embrace services to accelerate the adoption. So it's not only it's not only enough to go to a dashboard and do your analytics. Or end users would really like to see how they can create for an alert, for example. So even when they're not in front of their desk and using a Qlik Sense application, how can we make sure that they still are up to date with the most relevant information? And finally, and this is what you see in the product development that's going on, is that Qlik is continuing to support the customer's choice. And what we mean by that is we want to make sure that we offer an open platform and that the things that are most important for the customer, those are the things that we are actually putting our focus in right now and what we will develop. And that leaves us with this sheet where you get a nice overview of what Qlik has been developing and how we are positioning ourselves in the market as a truly open end-to-end platform, where we have the data integration on the left side, and that is really about creating that data pipeline. In the middle, we have the Qlik catalog, which is basically the space between IT and the business, where once you have freed that data, you want to enable your end users to easily use all that data. And I will give a short example later on about Qlik Catalog. And obviously on the far right, we have the Qlik Data Analytics, and this is our Qlik Sense environment, but included with additional features that have been developed, such as our Qlik Alerting product and conversational analytics. That's something I talked about last year, I believe. So this is basically the complete view of our open end-to-end platform with all of our products shown. So that was it for now for a let's say high-level overview to make you better understand what it is that Qlik strategy is focusing on right now. And as I promised, this will be a what's new and a visualization showcase story. So the best way to do that is actually to show it, I think. Let me just go to a application that is available to everybody, because on Qlik we have a demos.qlik.com, and there's a Qlik Sense visualization showcase. And the reason why I'm showing you where to find this application is because if I were to go through all the developments that we made this year and all the newly created visualizations, I would take up much more than just a half an hour that I have right now. But I want to show you just a few things that are available now, which I think really can help make you, or really can help you make the difference in your analytics. For example, the Sankey chart. not only, I think this was already available, early this year, but we have continued. Oh, here it says February 2019. This was released, but even still, updates are made to this chart with better sorting options, better labeling options, and as you can see, it's a very nice overview to get from one dimension, for example, the product category, and see how those split up in sales to different countries. So it's a very specific visualization that will give you a good overview of how a dimension is split up into another dimension. Another one that is always nice to show is the funnel chart, which is also a good way of showing you how data relates. And another one that I wanted to share with you is the trellis chart. Now, the trellis chart has already been here since June 2019, but what has been developed not too long ago is that we are also now able to use the trellis chart over multiple dimensions, and that gives you an even better opportunity to show a very good looking visualization or and plot that over other dimensions. One that was like often requested and it's now finally here is the way to draft a organization chart. As you can see here, there's an organization chart where you can filter by clicking in the chart, and it allows you to really give a structure of an organization or a tree structure in general. And this is really convenient, and it has been a much requested visualization. So we are very happy to be able to offer that right now in our visualization package. One that is not often used, but if you need to use it, it comes very handy, and that's the animator object. Now, before this was a default visualization option, you were not able to sort of shift through or step by step through a dimension to show how a bar chart, for example, or a line chart changes over time. And with the animator object, and this is just a very simplistic demo, we are actually able to do that now. So if I click on play here, you will see it's shifting through days, day by day. And slowly you are seeing how the top customers change, how this heat map is changing, and the sales per day. And what's interesting here is that the orange line is the data that still needs to be visualized, whereas the blue line is are the days that have been passed. So this is a very interesting way to show you how things are changing over time. And as I said, it's not a often used visualization technique, but if you do need to demo some or show something in this way, then it's very easy to use, and it's very convenient that we now have that in our in our visualization portfolio. So the final one that I wanted to show you was, I believe, that was June. Let me see another one. That was the bullet chart. As you can see here, the bullet chart, there has been improvements have been made here, labeling in the chart, giving specific colors, really customizing it to your liking, and we are providing a much more much higher density, information density than just with the ordinary bar chart. Again, these were just a few of the visualizations that I wanted to show you. There's a lot more that have been developed in the past year, even in the past year and a half. But if you are interested to look at these, then by all means, please go to the Qlik demos or demos.qlik.com website and look for the Qlik Sense visualization showcase. And this is a app that's continuously in development, and each time that we have a new visualization, it's going to be added to this showcase. Often with a more info link, which will bring you, for example here, which will bring you to the help site, where it will give you an explanation on how to use it, how to create your first bullet chart, how to change the appearance. Basically, it's a tutorial of how to use that visualization. So that's a very handy feature. Okay, bringing myself back to the presentation. There are a few, so this is what we've been discussing. There are a few features that are not necessarily a visualization. And one of the most important thing is the improvement that we have made. Well, first of all, the dynamic view feature that we have right now, and also the improvements that we have made with each release of our Qlik Sense. Dynamic view, for those that don't know it, maybe you have heard of on-demand app generation, where you are inside of an application, make a selection. Based on that selection, you are able to press a button that will create an application on the fly for you. Dynamic view continues on that technology, but instead of creating a new application on the fly, which you can then open up, we are now offered the possibility to have just one visualization updated on request. And visually, it's or schematically, it's drawn here on the right side. So basically, we have one main application, and there's a bar chart here that is created from a other data source, but because this is a lot of information, or maybe it's very specific information, we don't want to have all that data loaded into the main application at the very start. So we are now able to make a selection and then press refresh visualization, and then this will be updated on the fly. As you can imagine, that's a very powerful feature. Let's call it feature that has been here for already some time, but it's not always known by everybody, are the visual insights. Now, as I said, this is already developed for some time now, but it is continuously being improved, also to include natural language processing capabilities. So through all the releases, a end user is now much more able to really converse with the application through natural language, and ask the Insight Advisor what he is looking for, and then the AI in the background will try and create those visualizations for the end user. In addition to that, there's the associative insights, and I think together these form a really powerful analytical use case for the end user, especially for those that are not in a application, let's say day and day. And you know, now and then they want to look something up, but they don't have the right visualization at hand, or they don't really know how to continue their analysis. And I will show you in a very quick example how that would work out. For example, opening up a application that I have here, it's called consumer goods. And let's say, let's take a look. Basically, it's a application about sales data for all sorts of wares, of foodware. And let's say I'm an analyst and I see here average sales per day, and I see a decline in 3 months in a row from March 18 to May 2018. So let's say I'm interested in finding out how that could happen, but I don't really know where to start. So if I make this selection, so now I've selected 3 months, and what I can do now is go to the associative or the selection menu, and here on the right side I see associative insights. So if I click on generate insights, what is happening right now is that based on my selections and the relationship to all the other data, it's now giving me associative insight on that data. So let's say, let's try and look for something that we find interesting. And here we see that, for example, 39 customers, which amounts to a total of 11%, are not contributing to those 3 months that we have selected. So that might be something interesting to analyze further. Normally, it's kind of hard to select customers that are not in a certain period, but with the associative insight advisor, I can now do this analysis and click on select excluded, and now I can start anew with the customers that were not available in that previously selected period. Now, let's continue our analysis and look at some insights that we can do. And here we have the Insight Advisor, and we can help or let the AI help us generate insights. And basically, with a few clicks, now we already have a lot more visualizations and data available to us. So let's say I'm interested in these 3 states and why those customers were not selling or were not buying in those states. And I now have made a selection. And again, I can go back to the Insight Advisor and continue my search and generate insights again. So why were these customers not buying in these states? And actually, I want to know who were the sales representatives in those states responsible for those customers. And here I can, if I click on them, here I get a better understanding of how all that data links together. So again, this feature has been there for a while, but it is new in a way that continuous improvement have been made to make better analysis, to help the end user make even better, draw better conclusions. The other one, comparative analysis, it's a very powerful feature where you can have 2 charts and analyze the and have them and make a filtering on the chart individually, which can be a very powerful feature. Also new for the people that are familiar with the Qlik view. Now also in Qlik Sense, we are able to make triggers on a sheet. So when you arrive in an application or on a sheet, you can now create an action, for example, to apply a bookmark or move backwards in your selection, or when you come onto a sheet, you want to have all these selections cleared. This is now possible to put on your in your application. And also, I think this was available in April. We can now start sharing bookmarks. So in your bookmark menu, you can create a bookmark, then publish the bookmark to all the people that have access to an application. And then you can copy a link as this image is showing you. And then you can put that link or email that link to other people, and then they can directly go to the page with the selections that you have made, basically sharing the bookmark. So that was a very fast and high-level overview of some things that have been new last year. I hope all of them make sense for you to use. A lot of development time has gone into it, and but of course, one of the nicer things that I want to show you today or demo is the Qlik alerting. As you might know, as of January this year, we acquired a new company called Rox AI, and Rox AI and its ping alerting have now been adopted as Qlik alerting. And what it is, it's a tool that will help you create intelligent alerts. What's important here, I highlighted in green. It's powerful data-driven alerts. It's self-service alerting, so the end user can create their own alerts, and it's helping to drive adoption and action in your organization. And so to say, decrease the dashboard fatigue. So not having to look in your dashboard every hour to see if that one value has changed after a reload. No, you can just create a trigger and then be notified when it does occur. What makes it different compared to other alerting techniques? Well, one thing is that it's completely data driven, and it's based off data in the application and not on visualizations. And that's very important because it gives you a very powerful alerting capabilities. And also it's context aware. So once you get a trigger, it's linking you to the context of why that trigger was triggered or that alert was triggered. And with if you receive, for example, an email and there's a link there, you can just click on the link and you will be brought into the dashboard straight away. And just to show you how that is, how this works, I'll briefly give you a demo. Right, okay, I should make the screen a little bit bigger. So I'm in my QlikSense hub, and I have free, in my stream that is available for everyone, I have free applications available to me. Today we're going to open up the demo. This demo shows sales representative performance. Basically, it shows our how our sales is doing over different regions, and specifically for all our sales representatives. As you can see, let's say I'm a manager. I'm doing pretty well. I'm 90% to my target, so I'm feeling pretty confident. At the same time, I see here that APAC is kind of underperforming. It's around 86% to their target. So I want to keep an eye on this region and see if anything changes. Now, I don't want to log into this dashboard every hour, but I do want to keep track of what's happening here. So let's say I want to make a filter on the APAC, and on the far right, you will see a new button here, and it says create alert. And I've just placed that there when I was developing this application. So let's click on create alert, and let's give it a name. For example, APAC percentage to target gets below 85%. This is going to be the name of the alert for later references. So let's click on next. I can filter by object. So here I can say to which object the filter will apply. Well, let's take this KPI object, and I can enter the measure. Well, the measure in this case is the percentage to target. If applicable, it's not in this example, but if applicable, I can here create dimensions. I'm going to add this measure to the filter and press next. So here we specify our conditions. For example, the percentage to target. I want to be notified when it's less than a manual value of 85%. And we will click next. And I want to evaluate this alert based on my current selections. I want to have this alert evaluated on a reload and every time it occurs. And you can see here there are multiple options, but I will just click every time right now. And the channels, so these are the communication channels to inform me about this alert being triggered. I can say all, or in this case, I will choose email. Just to explain the mobile part, there is also a mobile app which allows you to receive, let's say, ping alerts right on your mobile with a link back to the Qlik dashboard, if applicable. But for now, we will choose email and create an alert. And that's basically it. We have now created an alert, and as soon as this application reloads and this value will get below 85%, we will receive a message about this. Now, just to show you that this is actually working, we are going to our management console just to reload this application. Let's go to tasks. So I'm now manually going to reload this application. Let's see, it was this one. Reload now. So while it is reloading and the trigger that we just created is being evaluated, I am going to show you how it looks in our web console, because there's also a more advanced web console for the Qlik alerting. And what this web console shows us is a way to keep track of all the alerts that I have created. As you can see, APAC percentage to target less than 85%. This is the one that we just created in our application. But it also allows us to create system alerts. For example, if a specific application fails to reload, I want to get a notification about that. Or if a application has a successful reload, I want to be notified about that. And there are also broadcast notifications. So these are, let's say, messages that you can define that will go to a large group of users, which you can manually trigger. One reason why there's a data alerts overview and possibility to create new, why this feature is also in the web console, is that creating a data alert here gives you a lot more possibilities. So let's say new alert, and here this is an application. For instance, commit to targets and a percentage, and drill to dimension, for example, sales representatives. And here you now are seeing what is being filtered. And for example, we want a custom filter for the region and APAC. And now we have added a filter. And now our condition is going to be evaluated to this data set that's being created. And so here in our condition, and you can see this is much more advanced than just creating an alert in the application itself. So what I'm doing right here is creating a condition where if after a reload, the percentage to targets is greater or more than 10% of the previous value, send me an alert. And that's basically what's being done right here. When is this going to be triggered? On the reload? How is it going to be distributed? Well, through email every time. And the notification, I want to have a link to my sales rep performance sheet. And this is how we create a more advanced alert in our web console. So this is how alerting works. Let me see here.
Daniel,
this was
Daniel. Can
yeah.
you? I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're a little bit over time. So I think we will have.
Oh yeah. Well, this was actually the last thing.
Perfect.
So yeah. So I'm just showing here the email that is being received, that we just created in the application, and that's basically Qlik alerting. And the final thing, and this will take 1 minute. The final thing that I wanted to mention was our acquisition about Blender.io. Blender.io is really so this is a new acquisition which will enable us to automate workflows. And those workflows can connect to over 500 web applications. This is how the tool looks, where based on a trigger in Qlik Sense, you can create a workflow and force people to sort of go to the next step in their analytics. And this is what I want to show as a use case, where you get chart data and then certain conditions are met. And then, for example, a message with a block would be sent to Slack, which would enable other people to jump in to your workflow and enable better teamwork. So that was a part for Blender.io, and that's my 30+ minute presentation. Apologies for going a little bit over time. But that was it from my side.
Thank you so much, Daniel. We received a couple of questions from yeah. Thank you, Daniele and Gabriel. I will send them to Daniel, and we will reply once we're offline, because if we continue like this, it's going to be too long, unfortunately. So I suggest we now move to the next presentation. So now Yasmin has joined. Let's see if I can. Okay, so I will try to select Yasmin as presenter. There we go. As soon as I can't see her anymore. There you are. Okay, so I designated you as a presenter, but like we mentioned, I'm not sure you can. Oh, hi, we can see your screen.
Hi. Yes, can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
We see the screen and we hear you.
Great.
Okay, perfect. That's everything I needed.
Yeah. So yes, from DG Mare, and she will present the dashboard on Blue Economy. Thank you so much for joining us. I will.
Not at all. Thanks for your patience. Sorry for the initial delays. This is always what happens with technology. Last minute, it stops working. Yeah, so my name's Yasmin. I work for DG Mare, Unit A4, which essentially deals with economic analysis, markets, and impact assessment. And I'm here to sort of present a project that we've been developing using Qlik, which we call the Blue Economy Indicators. So these are the few points that I'll be covering. Obviously, I'll be looking at this not so much from a technical perspective, but from a policy perspective, how it's been useful and you know how it sort of came to be. So I'll talk a little bit about the background, the goals that we had. The Blue Economy Report, which is essentially the step that led to developing the Blue Economy indicators. I'll show you the dashboard as well, and then I'll talk a little bit about sort of the feedback we've received and what the future looks like for the tool. Right, so in DG Mare, the directorate where I work in deals with not just with fisheries, but maritime affairs in blue economy. So we look at all the activities related to the oceans and to the sea. And our goal was to try and gather all the data for the different sectors. And we soon realized that one of the issues was that some of the data were there, but they were not centralized. They couldn't sort of easily be found or easily be accessed. We also looked at aligning ourselves in terms of what we're doing with the European data strategy and the goal of seeing the EU as a front runner, especially in a sort of a more digital world. But I think this is even more relevant now after the confinement, which has really highlighted the need to just go digital, and I guess the EU has its place there. And this last point goes back to what I just said, the idea of centralizing the data, of compiling the data, and of course of sharing it and making it available to the public. So this is how it starts. We produce a report every year, which attempts to monitor and measure the EU blue economy using a set of indicators, of socioeconomic indicators. We work with the JRC, which is the team that does more of the sort of the number crunching. We work more on the policy side, but they've been working on it in developing the tool and using Qlik as well. I go back to what I just said. We realized that we had to centralize the data, to not just for us, but also for stakeholders, for the general public. It's always so much easier to go to one place to retrieve all the data you need, as opposed to seeking it from different member states or from different sectors. So just to have a sort of hub where you can find all of it. The goal of the report is to inform policymaking, but we also realized that we wanted to go a step further. We wanted to reach other profiles, researchers, the general public, and for that we needed something else, something that wasn't just a report that we print every year and we publish every year. So this is how the initial idea for the blue indicators comes to be. We realized what the project priorities were. So as I just said, we wanted more information that what goes into the report. The report obviously can be so long and can include so much, but we wanted to provide people the opportunity to either read the report and then go on to look for additional information, or maybe they weren't interested so much in the policy messages from the report, but maybe in actual very specific and very concrete data. So we wanted to provide a platform for that, where people were able to further disaggregate the data, to find data which perhaps isn't obvious or isn't found in the report. Another important thing for us was that it had to be user-friendly. It had to be easy to use, and it had to be interactive. So the first one is because we feel that a lot of the data that comes, for example, from Eurostat, when we try to retrieve it, you have to sort of be quite knowledgeable from a technical perspective. So we wanted to make it very easy for people who are not technical at all, who are maybe not really involved in the sector, but just want to have more information. And in terms of being interactive, we didn't just want a page with static data. We wanted to provide a little more than that and to make it a little bit more interesting and appealing. And again, this goes back to having sort of the data centralized, but also to being transparent and sharing this data. Now, on the side of the Commission priorities as a whole, again, we were really trying to sort of align ourselves with the objectives in the European data strategy. And aside of the EU as the front runner, which is what I was mentioning earlier, there was this idea that we have to make data, public sector data, available for reuse. And this is where we then started our discussions with Digit, and there was a proposal to use Qlik, because the idea was not just to have the data there, but was to make it interactive, to enable people to download it, to copy it, to reuse it, so that it's not just something you consult, but something that can maybe be a bit more useful. So this is what the dashboard currently looks like. There's obviously, as you see here, several sections, some of which are shown in the form of graphs. So you can see that there's a number of graphs on employment in the blue economy, but then we also have some data which is provided in the form of tables. I wanted initially to show you the website itself. I'm going to try and do that, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Can you still see my screen? Yeah.
Yes, we see.
You see it loading? Of course, yeah. Okay. I'll go back to the presentation first and just mention a few things, and then if there's time, I'll show you the actual dashboard. What I was saying is this: we wanted to make it available to download, and that's exactly what the dashboard provides us now. So people can download the graphs. They can be downloaded as PDFs. They can be downloaded as images, and then they can be reused. They can be pasted into other documents or just be reused as standalones. But then in terms of visualizing the data, you can also change the graphs into tables, so that if you just want the data as a table, you can see it. And then you can also download it as an Excel, because we find that some of the people, that the consultants, might not be so interested in the graphs. Perhaps they prefer to do those themselves. They just want the data behind them. The tool also offers the possibility of filtering and further disaggregating. And this was really important for us, because in the report, what we do is that we talk about the blue economy at any level from 2009 to 2019. However, we realize that there are people that might be interested in a very specific sector or subsector, even an activity, for maybe 2012 and 2013 only. So there's a possibility to disaggregate all that data, to filter all that data, and to sort of make it your own. And one of the things that we were very happy with in the end was that it's very simple, and that was what we wanted. Something that looks nice, that looks user friendly, and that's very easy to use, even for people who have very little knowledge of the sector. And I think that's exactly what we got. So let me try again to see. Nope. Not loading. I wanted to do a little demo so that you could see how we sort of how we copy and how we paste and sort of download the different graphs. But I think that's not going to be possible. But I think you more or less get the gist of it. I'll speak a little bit about the feedback that we've received, and this was important for us because we were, in terms of the Commission, we were quite new at using Qlik, and so we realized that was a little risky. So we wanted to make sure that it worked and that it turned out well. And luckily, I'm happy to say that was the case. And we presented the tool at the EU Data Viz conference in November last year in Luxembourg. And the feedback was very, very positive. We got a lot of other DGs getting in touch with us, not just to sort of just to say how well they thought the tool worked, but also to show their interest in replicating the exercise that we had done using Qlik, and of course with their own sort of indicators and their own sort of policy fields. So this was a very positive response, and I think this led to us perhaps realizing that the success of the project was more than we anticipated, and has become more important than we had planned. I'm happy to say as well that the tool has helped us reach out to a different audience. So the report in itself is for policymakers, but the tool, for instance, has been viewed by lots of researchers who have then gotten in touch with us with regards to the data, with questions on the data, and just thanking us for making it available. And that for us is a very good sign. And then these people all around the world, China, Ireland, Netherlands, these are just a few examples. So I think what it has really done for us is help reach a wider audience. In terms of the future and how we see the Blue Economy Indicators tool evolving, I would say, firstly, we tried to adhere to the aims in the European data strategy by making a data-driven society. And I mentioned this earlier, but now this seems more relevant than ever, because obviously with the COVID, we found ourselves using the digital world a lot more. I mean, we published the report in July, and I have 100 printed copies of it sitting in my office in unopened boxes. So the only way that we've had to reach out in terms of the report and for people to use our data and to see that new data is available is essentially through this tool. So it has definitely proven useful. And in terms of what we do in the future, to not just leave it as it is, the goal is to include more data sources. So at the moment, most of our sources are Eurostat or DCF, which is a data framework that we have in MARE for certain sectors. To include more sectors, at the moment, we include what we call established sectors of the blue economy, which are the sort of more traditional sectors, but we want to include others, more emerging and innovative sectors. And of course, we keep a close eye to see what new features or what new elements are available with Qlik, so that we can assess whether these are of interest to us, and they can be a way to sort of develop the tool further. I'm happy to at a later stage share this presentation if anybody's interested in it, and there's a few links to the dashboard that unfortunately I was unable to share with you. And that's it. I mean, if anyone has any questions and there's time for them, then I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you so much again. And I was going to say, yeah, we will share the slides so people can go have a look. It's a really nice website. I've seen it. So much easier than pages of static PDF reports. So
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, but I mean, I'm not sure if there are any questions. Feel free to send them to me, and I will just centralize all the questions and then reply by email. I think most of you, all of you, have my email address, I would say. Okay, so thank you so much again, Yasmin, and we will we will have another presentation. We did say we would have 5 minutes break for a coffee, but we are behind on schedule. So, should we, GF, are you feeling, how are you feeling? Do you want to continue? Do we do with a 5 minute break now? Like 3 minutes?
We can proceed, but just wait 2 minutes so that if someone wants to go for a small stop or grab a coffee or something like that, we have time. So we can start in 2-3 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do that.
Let's say we start at 3:10, so in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
That's fine for everyone?
I think so. Wait, other questions? Yes, so you can always post your questions in the question panel. I see some people are doing it. It's a shame we're unable to. They don't have enough time to reply now. I'm reading some.
I think we can cover the questions at the end. We can spend some more time at the end if we want.
Yeah. Some people have been checking out the URL of the DG Mare dashboard. It's back again. Yeah. Thank you, Gabrielle. Okay. That's for the questions. One more minute. It's easier when we do it in real life, though. Huh? I prefer it. I miss the real event at the Hotel Ton, where we can just chat in real life. This is not for me. Webinars. I think I have a question. Some people agree with me. Real life is easier.
Indeed.
Okay, so it's 10 past 3.
Yes.
What is drilling there? So we can probably move on. So I don't know if you need introductions for Jean-François Dirks, who is a pre-sales manager and enterprise software solution at Agilos. So he will show you a little bit what can be done in predictive analytics. So I will. Okay, I think you can start. Yeah.
Can you make me presenter?
I thought I had already. Sorry, see.
No problem.
Presenter. There we go.
Yes. That's good. Let me check. Okay, good. So you're seeing the same background as what I have here behind me, so that's normal. It's the background of my screen. So good, let's continue now with the next topic. So today the topic I want to cover is about predictive analytics. So let me just move on. So the idea is really, when we talk about predictive analytics, is to see, well, what is actually possible to do with Qlik, and the ability to look into predictive things. So just to start, maybe good to see, well, if we want to talk about predictive, well, what exactly do we mean by predictive? So what predictive is? This is a topic I already covered 2 years ago, also at these sessions. So I took the same definitions as I took there. Of course, the content will be different. So what is predictive? Well, it's the ability to calculate the probable future. So it's really looking into the future, trying to understand the future, to model the reality in order to foresee the evolutions that are going to come. And this is, of course, needs to be done in an automatic way, because you could have an analyst that looks into the data and takes months and years to analyze the data and to predict the future by trying out these models. But the idea, of course, is that a lot of things will be automatically generated, and also we want to ensure that you have the ability to understand what are exactly the parameters that are important to predict the future. So you look into the past, and by analyzing the past in an automatic way, you will get an idea about what is going to happen in the future. That's really what it is about when we talk about predictive. And of course, what you can do with Qlik, the easiest way is to start analyze the actuals. If I look at my my actual numbers, at my KPIs, how do I do compared to target? Are we going to reach the target? This is already a prediction. If you look at your actuals versus target, well, it gives you an idea about how far you are from your target. If you're below the target compared to where you should be at a certain point, well, it gives an indicator that you probably will not reach the final target at the end of the year. So that's a way of predicting. And now the thing is, of course, also that we want to use the predictive science, the algorithms, to actually find a model of what has happened in the past, so that we can apply it. So there are a lot of parameters, and we need to determine which parameter will actually be important to predict the future. So I don't know if one of the parameters is the population of a member state. Well, we want to see if for a specific KPI, like for instance pandemics, well, is there a correlation between the population and the number of cases? So it's a way to look into the parameters that you know, to see and based on that to define what will happen in the future. So that's what it is about. Now for that, of course, we want. Of course, there is some common sense to be able to do that. You can look at the dashboard and make your decisions based on that. But we want also to help you to predict. And for that, we will propose different types of technologies. Of course, we are talking about Qlik today, but Qlik as standalone can already do quite some things. So actually the first part of the presentation here is to talk about the native Qlik capabilities, meaning that when you create a dashboard in Qlik, are there things, are there functions, are there visuals that will help me directly to predict information without changing anything? So just regular standard Qlik. And there are a few things indeed that will help you to predict using standard Qlik. And then next to that also, you can extend the capabilities of Qlik, leveraging the associative navigation that you have in Qlik together with other engines that are more advanced and that will help you to predict. One of the engines that you could use is on the server side. So that is when I analyze something, I will have a third-party tool like Python or R or another tool that makes complex calculations. to actually enhance my dashboards. Or I could also have a front-end extension. So that is that I'm using an extension in my application that is actually doing some calculations in the front end. And for that, we will talk a little bit about one of the extensions that are specific from Vizlib. I know that we have a session on Vizlib more detailed later on, but I will just focus on the predictive part of these extensions in this presentation. Good. So, well, let's first start with the native Qlik capabilities. What is possible already today in the Qlik application? And so, one of the capabilities, of course, is to use trend lines, because this is something that will give you an indication about what's going to happen in the future. If you have a trend that goes up, well, it means that probably in the future it will continue to go up. But of course, well, here you have twice the same line, but you can, if you apply a linear a trend line, well, actually you see that it goes up. If you apply a polynomial trend line, you see that it goes up in the beginning, but goes down at the end. So depending, of course, on the model, you could have different conclusions. What is important, of course, is that we can provide within Qlik, and actually this is a feature that already exists in Qlik since the version of September 2020. Well, there you see that you have the ability to actually add a trend line directly inside a Qlik dashboard. So this is native functionality. If I want to see a 4th degree polynomial, it's going to adapt the line. If I take, for instance, 2nd degree, it will be slightly different. If I take an exponential, then it will be again different. So depending, of course, on the type of model, you will have different views. But the thing is that this is a standard feature of Qlik. So Qlik, you can use Qlik if you see what is behind. Well, you will see that you have a trend line here, and that this trend line can be directly defined here. You have a type, and you can define the type of trend line that you want to apply. So you don't need to create complex calculations. Qlik will do that for you automatically. That would be the first way to actually solve this issue. Then another way to do so is actually to use one of the newer features. It's a feature that is available in Qlik since version September of this year, and it is applying. It's for clustering. So one of the things that will help you to understand what is going to happen in the future is to look at your data and to group the different behaviors in your data into clusters. The problem with clusters is that you don't know into advance when you have a new data point coming. Well, in which cluster should I classify it? If you can classify it in a cluster, well, actually, for instance, I classify it in a cluster with a high probability of something. Well, if I put it there, I know that probably this will happen to this specific data point in the future. And the way you can cluster, it could be geographically, it could be based on different parameters. And for that, there is an algorithm that exists, which is called k-means. So it's a way of grouping data based on the position in a two-dimensional or multi-dimensional mapping of the data. So actually you have, for instance, two KPIs, and which gives an X and a Y axis. Well, this will position the points, and you will be able to group them based on actually the values that it has in the complete group. It's called k-means. And actually what we have here is that we have the capability since version September to apply a function. It's called k-means 2D and k-means ND. 2D is for 2 dimensions. Well, actually it's called 2 dimensions, but the dimensions are actually QlikSense measures, because you look at 2 measurements, and based on those 2 measurements, you're going to build clusters. So that is what the 2D is doing. And then the other one is about multi-dimensional clustering. So that's more than 2. It is by having 3, 4, or 5 different KPIs that you're going to actually combine to define your clusters. So that's what you actually need to use here in QlikSense. So an example for that, I can show you that also. is actually I can explain a little more into detail what you can do with it. So one of the things you can do with it is that you, for instance, can color your scatter plot that you see here. So here you have a scatter plot that contains a lot of data points with two measurements. In this case, it's about the width and the length of petals of a flower, and you're going to classify them based on that. And you see that you have a lot of flowers here that have can be grouped here below. You have others that can be grouped above and even higher. So how do you do that? Well, you actually define a Qlik formula, the one that you see here, that is called k-means 2D, and you're going to aggregate it to make it a dimension. Why do we want to make it a dimension? Well, actually, because we want to cluster, so to build groups. We want to build 3 groups, 3 clusters. So by building 3 clusters, we have actually a dimension, cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3. That's what it's actually going to generate. So Qlik is going to generate that based on the definition that you have here. So that's one way of doing it. A second way of doing it is by looking at what is the center of the cluster. Why is that interesting? Well, because instead of showing it like a group of points, like what you see here, well, you have the ability to just define one position of the point and then to actually color it or position it in different ways. So again, that's the other function that you can use, which is called k-means centroid. And actually, you can do that in 2 dimensions, but you can also do that in multiple dimensions. Of course, we usually only represent the data with 2 dimensions. We could do it in 3 dimensions, but it's if you start to want to represent data in 4 or 5 dimensions, it's of course very difficult for a human brain to understand. But calculation-wise, you can have a lot of parameters that will determine your cluster. And so what you can do here is the possibility to bring those things together. Now let me show you that in the front end. So how does that work? Well, what you have here is that you have, for instance, here in this case, clustering that is applied. So you see that here below you have a calculation that happens where it calculates automatically 7 different clusters. They are numbered from 0 to 6, and actually is going to group together based on what you have in the data. Now, if you look here, you see that the first 3 clusters are very much packed, and the other clusters are a bit more wide. And actually, this is the representation in 3 dimensions that you see there on the left. Well, you see here, indeed, you see clearly the 3 clusters with the centroid that is mapped there, and the other 5 clusters. This is a Qlik Sense application, so this is just generated using the k-means function that you apply in this case on a geographical map with a centroid calculated based also on the function. Here is another way of representing it, and this will give you, for instance, some insight about the fact for the yellow one, the cluster number 3, for instance, that there might be some outliers. You see that there is one point here at the top that is actually an outlier for the application. So you can actually use that to build your cluster automatically. Now here, of course, we set to the system that it should create 4 different clusters. And if I make a selection, of course, I only have 1 point left, so we see only the point that I have selected. But one of the things also that you can do on this is that you can start to have more than 2 dimensions. For instance, on this one, well, actually, I'm looking at wines, and actually wines have 10 different parameters. And actually, I want to use all those 10 different parameters to actually build a cluster. So what you do here is that here, of course, we're looking only at parameter 1 and parameter 2. And you can start to say, I would like to see 6 different clusters. So I select 6. What happens is that he's actually generating the clustering for 6 different clusters, or I want to have 8 different clusters. By selecting 8, I see how they are distributed. And of course, depending on the parameters that I select, well, of course, I should select different ones, you will see that the groups are not that clear as what you would see in the other one. This is because you have a lot of different dimensions. And so by changing my dimension, I always looking at one slice of the equation. and it's actually the system is calculating all the different slices together and trying to bring the cluster that would be the most most useful, the most pertinent. There is also a way to do this automatically. So there is a way to say, well, let the system define what would be the best way to separate the groups. And when you do that, the two groups that you separate is actually, in this case, 2. So depending, of course, on the algorithm that you are using, you are able to do that. So that's one of the important things that you have, is that you can either combine multiple clusters with 2 or with 3 dimensions or many different dimensions. Okay, that was about the clustering, so the things that you can do in the system. Now let me continue a little bit in my presentation. Okay, there we go. I want to go to the next slide. So you can apply that also in a group, in a group of, for instance, of data. If I want to group here, in this case, I'm going to group multiple products. So I'm grouping products together that belong together. Now, depending, and that's one of the strengths of Qlik Sense, is that as soon as you modify something in Qlik Sense, for instance, if you want to change your selection, here I see the grouping based on the global set of data. But as soon as I make a change here, for instance, I select Belgium, well, by changing Belgium, you will see that the grouping is completely different. Here I have men's footwear that is alone in a small cluster, while in the previous one, I had men's footwear that is together on the top cluster. So depending on the selection, it will recalculate all the clusters you need and finally come to the group that is most pertinent. Now you can use that also in visualizations. For instance, if you want to do geographical visualization, this is a very simple application of the clustering. Well, here you have, for instance, a grouping by, so it will bring together all the airports. So this is just a mapping of the airports on a map, and it will bring into airport clusters all the airports that are close together or that that have some common dimension. In this case, it's a geographical dimension. And by making them of a specific cluster, it will focus on these ones. And again, you will be able to view the detail behind, because you're working into a visualization that is directly done inside Qlik Sense. Good. That's about the clustering. Now, of course, there are other things that you will find inside Qlik. And one of the things you will find there is that there are also other calculations that exist, like statistical functions. And one of the group of functions that you will find inside Qlik is are the test functions. It allows you to test if a model is actually valid and representative of something. For instance, the He2 test will allow you to look into two different parameters, two different variables, and then to analyze if these two variables are actually deterministic to define something. For instance, I want to see to look at a population KPI, and I have two variables that would be at one side the average income, and at the other side the number of the ratio between men and women. And I would like to understand if the average income and the ratio between men and women could actually impact the population index. It goes up, it goes down, or it's a high population, low population, depending on that. Well, actually, the He test will show me, by calculating all this, that a combination of those two parameters, or the two parameters apart, should be taken to actually predict what will happen with that specific population. Well, now I gave an example about 2 parameters, but if you have 50 parameters, well, actually, then that kind of statistical functions or testing will help you really to understand your data. So that's also one of the things that you can use out of the box in Qlik. Now, if you that's what you have out of the box inside Qlik. Now, next to that, of course, you can extend your capabilities that you have in Qlik. So one of the things you can do by extending the capabilities is actually by setting up integrating with a server behind. It could be a Python server or an R server, as you can see here, or different APIs. And actually, you are going to use an object to execute a more advanced analytical function. So you can really make more advanced calculation. I just discussed about k-means, but next to k-means, well, actually, you would have much more capabilities like functions like what you will find here inside R, forecasting functions, specific evolutions of a curve. So like here, so you're accessing specific libraries, the hot winter forecast, for instance, in this case, or a lot of things that you can do. What you see there are actually R codes. And actually what the server-side extension will allow you is to execute this R code from within Qlik. An example that we have there, and I already showed that last time, is you will find that on the Qlik demo server. So it's if you go to demo.qlik.com, you will see this example. So it's an application that is called UK Crime, and actually it's going to analyze a data set of crime to do some forecasting, for instance, to define what is going to happen. So one of the things you will find in this application, if I'm looking at the different crimes, is that, well, I see that there might be some periodicity, and based on that, it will define a forecast in the future. And how is this working? Well, because if I select another type of crime, like bicycle theft, I see that there is less certainty for that one. If I take burglary, I have a clear well, I don't have any periodicity. If I take drugs, well, I will find again another way of looking into the data. And actually, how does that work? Well, there is an R script that is running behind, and behind that script, it's going to look at this curve that you see here over time. Let's say that you have measurement until this specific year. Well, it will look into this curve and it will split the curve. It will decompose the curve into a specific seasonality. Here you will see clearly that we have a yearly seasonality combined with a trend. Here we see that we have a downwards trend, and it's the combination of the fact that the data goes down, but that there is a periodicity, a seasonality, that will help you to better understand how the curve will evolve in the future. So that's, again, a more advanced way of analyzing the data, and that can still be done in Qlik with the full interactivity of Qlik. So if I select burglary, I will have this being executed on our server on the fly and having directly the result on my screen. If I select another type of crime like robbery, well, again, it will recalculate everything. Of course, you can also apply clustering on R and things like that, but that is not necessary anymore because you have the clustering algorithm directly integrated in Qlik. But here you can do more complex things. So these are the things that you can do with the integration of advanced analytics, and it's actually going to be executed on an external server, on other engine. So that's one of the things that I've shown. And then the last part of this presentation to close is about third-party extension in the front end. And I just want to say a few words about two extensions that you will find in the Vislib library. We will discuss a bit later on in the next presentation about Vislib. But what you have here is the ability to do a forecast within the Vislib library, or to actually also perform clustering, but maybe more advanced clustering within there. So to give you a quick example of that, I will take here the example that I have. So here what you see is that you have a curve, and actually is going to calculate automatically the probable forecast depending again on the parameters that you're going to define. So if you put more importance on one of the parameters or the other parameters, it will adapt the way the forecast is calculated. And you see it can show evolutions of the curve, like you see here, with the maximum and minimum certainty levels, so the 95th percentile or the 80th percentile. So it gives you an idea about how the curve is probably going to evolve. The green curve and the black curve have clearly a different forecast. And also, again, depending on the change that you make, this will directly impact the curve that you see. So this is a way to actually apply forecasting, and it's just in the front end that you can interact with it, because it's a library from within the Vizlib. And of course, if again, in the same as we had before, as soon as I make selections, you will see that the data is getting recalculated on the fly. But in this case, in the front end extension. Again, a way to predict, to build forecast, is what you will find here. So that's for the forecasting component of the Vizlib library. And then you have also within the scatter plot, you have the ability also to do some clustering. And so, for instance, here I have a representation, and it's going to automatically build coloring based on what he finds that seems to belong together based on the data that you have. So it's a bit like the k-means clustering that you will find in the Qlik Sense application now from scratch. Well, this visual will also allow you to do that. Good. So to wrap up what I said, maybe before I go to the conclusion, two very concrete use cases. Where can you use this predictive stuff, this forecasting capabilities? Well, for instance, for fraud detection, there are a lot of use cases within the needs of the European Commission, where actually you want to be able to find when there is fraud. Well, actually, these clusterings will help you to find abnormality, something that is not as usual. It will help you to classify groups, so that if you need to do a control, well, you know how to classify it first to be more efficient. And also another thing that you can do is within the healthcare is when you start to apply these algorithms directly in a healthcare situation. Well, in that case, it might help you, for instance, to predict. Well, and this is very actual here. If you look at the COVID situation, we want to know what is going to happen in our hospitals in the near future. Again, these algorithms will help you to calculate based on the past and on a lot of other parameters, well, what we can project into the future. So that's these kind of use cases is what you're going to be able to do with predictive analytics. As I said, to wrap up, you can do that natively with Qlik Sense, with the k-means and other statistical functionalities or the trend lines. You can do that with server-side extension, working with an R server to do more advanced calculations. And then within the front end, like for instance, by using the Vizlib forecasting component to apply a more visual forecast to your data. Good. That brings me to the end of my part, and well, I leave the word to the next speaker, unless there are specific questions you want to address.
Not sure we have time for questions. We're a little bit behind on schedule, a little bit. So, but again, like if you have questions, don't hesitate to send them to me. Like either in the question panel, I've been trying to reply to some of them already. Otherwise, yeah, you can also send an email, as you know. I guess we will move to the next presentation, which is yeah. Thank you very much, Jean-François. Let me find. So, the next presentation is Platform Manager. So I'm gonna find the speaker. There we are. Oops. So designate as presenter. Rolf. Okay, Rolf, I'll give you. Okay, they're ready already.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. So is it Rolf or is it Jurik speaking?
It's both. It's two of us.
Okay, so we have Jurik, who is the customer success manager at Platform Manager. So Platform Manager, which provides version control and deployment of Qlik Sense apps, reload tasks and extensions. But I will let you then introduce Rolf yourself, right? We can see your screen, it's good. And we can hear you.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, perfect. You cannot see us?
No.
Okay, no, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. We will keep it this way, and we will keep it short and snappy as well to make up for the lost time before.
Thank you.
No problem whatsoever. As Carolina said, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jorik van Voorthuizen, Customer Success Manager at Platform Manager. And
just to be sure, because I think you're sharing the wrong screen. It's not the presentation you're sharing, but the presentation. It's not the final slide.
Do you see now?
That's better. It's better.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for the heads up. Back to where I was. I'm here with Rolf de Knijven. He is my more technical colleague. I will be doing the first part and some parts in between of the presentation, and Rolf will be doing the deep dive in the solution. So to start off, I would like to start with an agenda. How important is a good application? This is the first one. Of course, we're going to talk about Qlik. We're going to talk about issues that our clients had, a deep dive into these issues and how we solve them, and some of our clients. We believe that a good BI analysis is depending on two main ingredients. The first ingredients, when we look at the quote, good decisions made on bad data are just bad decisions you don't know about yet. I think everyone will agree on this part. This is also the main reason why companies focus mainly on their data. But if we change one word, so if we change data to apps, good decisions made on bad apps are just bad decisions you don't know about yet. This is a reason why we think that the applications are as important as the data. Of course, this is a little bit harder to investigate and to see if your data is in fact correct or the application. But we are here to solve these issues. So how does the Qlik journey start? As Daniel said earlier in the webinar, Qlik comes in from a business need. Of course, a company has a lot of data which they don't know what to do with. Qlik builds one or two apps and they give the company insight in the data that they never had before, which results in happy users. What happens next? And what happens next is, I think, what Qlik wants, but it's also its downfall, and that is that it becomes a success. Of course, it's very, very nice that something that you are using becomes a success, but at this point, you can start experiencing some issues. For example, you have a lot of different Qlik applications. More people get involved, more departments get involved, and more servers need to be connected. All this is, of course, the same for every BI solution, and this is something that we can solve. These issues do make the end users a little bit less fond of the solution, but this is the same for every solution. So, I would like to talk to you about three of our clients. First off, I would like to start with our client Schiphol. Schiphol is the airport in the Netherlands. As you can see on the screen, Schiphol experienced some issues. They were losing their changes in the developing process, and they were testing new applications for changes, but it took way too long. They had no idea where the data was coming from, and they had no idea how to manage this data. Rolf, can you please show us how we solve these issues?
Yes, I will. Thank you. So let me show you our application. Basically, our clients, developers, were losing changes and going back and forth to a previous version. It was very complicated or not even possible at all. And with Platform Manager, they now control their applications, available over here. And they can have a look at all the instances. If we look at an application, let's select this one, we can see all the previous versions of the application, and we can select the previous application, view the application to see what's missing, or it's even possible to restore with just a click the previous version and continue with that version. So when a developer deletes an important item, it's always possible to go to the previous version in no time. But also the question, where does the data come from? And by giving insight in the application and its connected data sources and destinations, our client now knows exactly where the data comes from. And when we go to an application, we can show you the data lineage of the application. For instance, this application card, it's got 3 data sources, and this QPD is generated by this application. So immediately it will help you to assist in your environment. But we also instantly know that this car application is creating a QVD and a QVX, which is used by a lot of other applications in our BI environment. So Platform Manager now have an immediate insight and always up-to-date live information about your BI environment. So they not only wanted to restore versions and look at it, but they also wanted to compare different versions. So they wanted to know what has changed in the application. And then it's very simple. We select 2 versions, select difference analysis, and because Platform Manager knows all the metadata of the application, we can now compare them. For instance, a script. On the left, we have the old version. On the right, the new version. And when we scroll down, we can see on the bottom on the right side that this new version got an extra data source as presented in green over here. But we also know the details about, for instance, your visuals, your pie charts. And if we scroll down, we can see that not only the title of one of the pie charts has changed, but also we take a look into your dimensions and measures, and we can see, for instance, here that the brand has been changed to model. So this is very useful and helpful, and it's really helped our client to assess the impact of the changes, and also the needed test capacity is now estimated much precisely. The other thing Schiphol was facing is that the first thing in the morning they had to promote applications manually. And now the Platform Manager, they now schedule a deployment to be executed in advance. So they don't need to set a reminder in Outlook or something like that. They click on promote, and during the promotion they select all the settings, and you can promote immediately, or you can decide to promote a new version of your application. Let's say, for instance, Sunday evening, and the new version of your application is promoted at exactly the time and moment you want it to, with the fresh data reloaded at that time. So those were the issues we solved for Schiphol.
Thank you very much, Rolf. The next client I would like to talk to you about is Schindler. Schindler is a very fast-moving organization, so they work with a lot of tight timelines. Sometimes the timelines were so short that the developers were not able to do even a small change due to the complexity of the application. Also because they work with a lot of mashups and extensions in a multi-server and multi-developer environment, it was impossible to see what the relations were between the applications and where these relations were based. Rolf, please show us how we solve this.
Okay, let's cancel this one from the previous part. Well, working on with deadlines, they really wanted to have multiple people working on the same application. So let me get to another screen. And we're going to show it over here. Here we have the second user. We need to log in again. We waited just a bit too long. So it was logging out, no problem. We'll get that sorted. So the both of them are working on the application, and therefore in development they go to the correct stream, which is the Europe projects, and they start working on the car sales Europe application. So Platform Manager is taking care of all your applications, and right now when we edit, we check out the application, so it will become available in Qlik Sense in the work stream, and we can start working on it. So we check out the application, and it automatically will start Qlik Sense and the application is being loaded. So we start working on the application. And as we can see at this moment in the sheet, there's no data available because there's no data loaded. Well, let's go back to the other user, and he's going to work on the application as well. So now we're going to make some changes to the application. And while we're making changes to the application, the API will make sure that it's all synchronized. So let's go to the data load editor, make a change, and let's load the data. Well, that worked okay, so the sheet is loaded with the data. As we can see in Platform Manager, the application is checked out to multiple users, so we know who are working on the application. When we switch back to the other user, we can see now that the data is refreshed and available in the data load editor. We can see that the comment of the other developer is here as well. So two people can work on the same application at the same time. So that makes it possible for you to have your new version of the application released in no time. And when you're building an application, it's great to have extensions and mashups. But what happens is that in the past you had some applications which did not work correctly when they promoted the application due to a missing extension. The Platform Manager is taking care of that as well. As we can see here, you have this application and it has relations with your extensions. So if we want to promote the application, we need to make sure that the extensions are there. Here we can see that the heat map and angular chart are two extensions used by this application. So they need to be available in our next environment. But we also manage your extensions as well, and that's also more powerful because we can see the heat map extension, for example, and we can check which applications are using your extension. And we can see it's also the Car Sales Europe application. So two applications are using this extension. So this one definitely needs to be available in your next environment in production. But the custom report extension is not being used at all. So therefore, this extension does not need to be available in production, maybe even be removed from development. So what happens is now that whenever they promote an application, we know that the extensions are there and that the applications will work in the next environment as it should be.
Thank you, Rolf. As the third client and final client, I would like to talk to you about our client Honda. Well, there it is. Honda had troubles when it came to dependencies of their applications. They had no idea what apps had what dependencies, and also when they wanted to publish the app to another environment, they had to download the application, go to the other environment, upload it there again, and this was very error sensitive and basically not working for them. Also, working in different geographical locations was just a no-go because it wasn't controllable and therefore it wasn't possible. Also, a way to do a final check before an application goes to the other environment wasn't possible. Please show us how we solve this, Rob.
Okay. Well, they have to make sure that all the dependent applications are promoted together. So if we go to our applications, what we did, we created a release for them. And the release means that when you're promoting, you promote the applications all together. And when we create a release, we not only the applications which are going to be promoted, but also all the dependent source files, all the needed files. As you can see, we're promoting the manufacturing and production application, but also all the other dependent applications, and even in this case, some Excel sheets which are version controlled by Platform Manager as well. So when they promote a release, every time it makes sure that all the dependent files are there as well. So no more human errors by forgetting an important file. And while they were promoting applications for the entire company, there was no management of publishing applications to the next environment or to the next geographical location. And we solved it with our promotion flow. And as we can see over here, this instance of the global car sales application is promoted. And when we open this box, we can see that it's promoted from development to acceptance to the Europe sales stream and also the USA sales stream. So now we know it's ready in our acceptance environment. So let's go to acceptance, because they wanted to prevent unauthorized promotion of applications into the production environment. And when we want to promote the application, it's not possible because we created customizable checklists. And these can be assigned to a manager or a supervisor. And you first need to update this list with non-mandatory or mandatory items before the application can be promoted. But in this case, it all went fine, so it's approved. And now it's possible to promote the application. So we have the human checks checking the data and all the items were in the checklist, platform managers checking the extensions and all dependencies. So now every app meets up the high quality standards required before it's put into use.
Thank you, Rolf, for giving us a clear view of what Platform Manager can do and how we solve issues for our clients. So here's a little sum up of solutions we give our client. Of course, all these solutions are in Platform Manager. So that Schindler only uses the both development and dependencies doesn't mean that Platform Manager only has these two. All these solutions are in Platform Manager. So looking at the quote again, good decisions made on bad apps are just bad decisions you don't know about yet. I would say let's together make sure that all decisions you make are good decisions. Companies who are already sure that their decisions are good decisions, you can see on the screen right now. We have quite a big client base. If you have any questions, feel free to go to Sandrina with your questions. She will come back to me or to Rolf, and we will come back to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks again for participating.
Thank you.
And we are a little bit, so we were supposed to close at 4, but because everything has to go wrong at one point, we will still need an additional 20 minutes. So as you know, last but certainly not least, we have Vislib presenting. And so for those who can stay another 15 to 20 minutes, please do. We have them joining from Germany. So, and also in any case, the meeting is recorded, so you will be able to see it again later on. So I will quickly, I think, where is Martin? So we have Martin Mahler, who is the CEO of Vislib, who will present. I cannot see him. And the participants. Let's see. Where is Martin? Asya, will you? Oh, you're using Asya's. Okay, I guess. Okay, so presenter, there we go. So you have the presenters mode, Martin, using Asya's email. Can you say something? I unmuted you. Ah, there we go. Oh, wait, we cannot hear you though. Why? You're not on mute on my side, so.
Please make sure that you're unmuted on the PC also, because it's 2 different places.
We should be good now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hear you.
Wonderful. I didn't realize I'm Asya from Kraft.
Yeah.
This is what happens. I said, do you have the link? Yeah, sure, here it is. And I'm joining.
Yeah, I was looking for you, Martin, but I can't find you. So There we go.
No worries at all. So let me share my screen just to start the conversation here. So show.
We can see it. Perfect.
Wonderful. Cool. I'm very excited to be presenting today. I know we don't have much time, and all of you are already tired, but hopefully with a little bit of energy, you'll be able to enjoy your afternoon. Bizlib, today, about us. My name is Martin Mahler, German originally, and however live in the United Kingdom, in London, for the last 6 years. As you can imagine, very, very sad that we're departing the European Union. So this is something that's always on my mind when I see the news. Nevertheless, one thing that is crossing borders is, of course, great products, analytics, and data. So I'm very excited to be speaking to you guys today. Thank you, Agilos, for having us. So what I'll talk today, and I listened a little bit to the presentations before around the advanced analytics and the platform manager. Really, really great stuff, actually. And thank you also for the shootout with Bizlib. So on our side, who we are effectively a third-party extension add-on company that works exclusively on top of Qlik Sense. So think of us like an Excel plugin, right? That you can easily install and allows you to create, basically, you have more charts, more capabilities, and allows you to create more beautiful visualizations and generally dashboarding capabilities on top of Qlik. So, you know, our value proposition is relatively simple. You get more functionality with Bizlib than you would get out of the box. And the other bit, however, and I'm going to highlight that, is the customization piece, because we see a lot that a table is not enough. It needs to be a table that is perfectly formatted, because we, Bizlib, are of the belief that if data is presented organized in a nice way and compelling, the perceived value and people trust the data much more. And of course, we are not a small company, so we are actually having 100 employees, which is incredible, headquartered in London. But one thing that was actually quite amazing as we started the journey with Bizlib, and I only realized that a couple of years later, is that we have customers across the globe. China, in Poland, in Latin America, in the USA, of course. But not only that, we also started having customers in different industries. Novartis, Novo Nordisk, AstraZeneca, who just introduced a new vaccine in collaboration. Then also financial services, but also governmental agencies. The US Army, for example, has started using Bizlib. And it kind of came to me that, you know what? There's one thing, despite different languages and different industry, there's one thing that everybody has in common, and that is the language of data. Everybody can speak data, everybody can read data, everybody can read a bar chart, regardless where you are. So with this, we made our mission is to work on presenting that data in the most efficient and easy, but also very beautiful way. So what we have today generally is 5 product lines. Agilos is an esteemed partner of us, so they can help you with any questions you have and generally show you the products in more details. But in a more kind of quick way, Bizlib Library is a collection of 23 little extensions that allow you to create beautiful dashboards, right? And it's all about customization, but you also get, some advanced charts such as a Venn diagram or a KPI designer. Self-service is all about having the ability, custom report, I heard it before, being able to create your own custom report without having to go to IT. So basically, it's a self-service consumption analytics. That's the right term. Finance is all about financial reporting, okay? And perfect tables, perfect structures, hierarchies. In essence, you can throw Excel away after you've seen this, in a way. Gantt charts are about project planning and timelines. And the last but not least, and this is picking up a lot, which is right back. Having the ability to edit, to add and write data directly in Qlik Sense, where the data is. So, in a very short overview, that's our product line. So I will try to make the best use now of the rest of my presentation to just show you everything live in action. So let me change my screens and move over to Qlik Sense. So I'm a big fan myself. I've been a Qlik developer for many, many years. I'm also Qlik luminary, and I've also written a book, Mastering Qlik Sense, that you can find on Amazon. But I love using the product, and I love using VisLib. So we created a product that I would use for myself. So here's the story, right? And remember, it's all about presentation. This is a table that we see that comes out of the box. Beautiful, very quickly to create. We've all seen your first kind of 10 minutes experience with Qlik Sense. But then once you've finalized the data, you then want to show this to your senior director. You want to present this to a wider audience. And now this is the step where Qlik Sense natively out of the box does not have many formatting options. Right? If you look here on the right-hand side, you'll see that there are a couple of settings, but ultimately you don't have actually many options. Even in the appearance section, you can style some things, but guys, this is not Excel. And that's where VisLib comes in. Okay, we don't say you don't need Qlik Sense. You start using Qlik Sense, and then when you hit the limit, that's where VisLib will take you to the end of the goal. So on the left-hand side, you'll see here under custom objects, a collection of all the bundles that we have on offer, such as the VisLib library. So here you'll see a collection of all the 23 extensions, right? And all you got to do is really take a VisLib table, drag and drop it over an existing Qlik chart, convert it into a VisLib chart, and nothing really changes because we are replicating existing functionality to make sure that everything has one consistent look and feel. But now that this is a VisLib object, it takes you to the next level. You see here on the right-hand side, you have many more options when it comes to visualizations. You have also totals, formatting. We even added drop shadow because somebody's asked for it. But you get the idea that now that everything is so easily accessible, that even without any development skills, you can go in and you can start changing things on the fly with just like in Excel, no coding, no training required. You can directly go in and start modifying and creating the report in the style that you personally like. So formatting customization is key and core at everything that we do. But it's not only presentation, right? We're also thinking, how can we take a table further? How can we make a table more appealing? So for example, we're looking at budgets, which is a percentage number. Well, if you go to the measure column section and scroll down, you'll see that we have many more representation types. This means that you can take a text and you can transform it with just a click of a button into a progress bar, which shows you the minimas and maximas of your budget in just one view. You can, of course, reuse the same colors if you want to. So progress color, okay, not automatic, but I just want to make sure I reuse the same thing just for consistency. And this is how I move on. And step by step, you can create a table that is much more compelling. You can add icons if you like, such as indicators that are very, very helpful if you want to, for example, compare the value with a value perhaps from last year, or with a fixed value such as 100 million. Everything that is above 100 million has an arrow up. Everything that's below 100 million has an arrow down. And you take this further, and the last bit that I want to show you here as well is budget amount. It's great, but it's a total number. I want to see how this is changing over time. And for this, you have the ability to add a mini chart option, which if you add here your month, you will see then your budget, how it changed and evolves over time. And this is how we take one table, one chart, and we go really deep in terms of how can we improve it and make it much more meaningful to the audience. And that's in essence VisLib on a high level. continuing the story as well, you know, we have a line chart, and again, you know, we have formatting options, so you can add like pies if you want on top of it. Lots of styling options. That's what we spend a lot of time on, such as having little icons on the line or even controlling the line width. Conditional show and hide for some much more dynamic analytics, such as clicking on something and then you see the measure being presented, or, you know, the user has the ability to create the line on the fly. But the thing is, aside from just presentations, again, we've thought about, you know, how can we take a line chart and make it much, much more meaningful? So when we look, for example, at the standard QlikSense native one, again, as a comparison, it's great, it's easy to create. But whenever I'm demoing, or I was demoing as a consultant, it was, you know, what does this line chart tell me? Well, you know, you have a spike in December in 2012, and then it repeats itself after 1 year. Looks like Christmas sales, but you have some cyclicality in your data, right? And then the trend looks to be upward facing, right? But the thing is, right, that you have, you know, I don't want to say you have to be an expert, because, you know, everybody, we all formally educated, but, you know, it's, you have to read the chart, you have to understand the chart. And this is where data literacy comes into play, right? Where we were getting trained to read charts. Well, we think of this, well, you know, there's something to make it perhaps easier to read a chart. Perhaps we can add something like color cues, such as, hey, listen, if you hit 500K, then it turns into green, which is good. We've exceeded our expectations, or we're below certain expectations. So those thresholds immediately help you read and analyze the chart more effectively. And certain events can also indicate like, hey, you know, maybe it was a product launch that has contributed to the spike. And because analytics is never static, it's dynamic, you can change things. You can have a slider, readjust things on the fly. So with this, you know, this chart is much easier. It's almost, we're saying it makes your data talk to you. Speaking about talking, you can also add annotations on our line chart. There's a data point that can be explained. Actually, there was a new legislation that was passed there, or very sad, Brexit, right? And using these annotations, you can take the same line chart and make it a complete narrative that explains itself and gives you the whole story without you having to, you know, do much reading, figuratively. So that is VisLib in a way where we're taking charts, we add customization options, formatting, and then we go really deep in terms of how can we make the bar chart, the combo chart, much more compelling and meaningful, so it hits the spot in terms of getting across the message that your data tells you. Very nicely presented today as well around advanced analytics. Big fan. So the story here is easy, right? With line charts or anything that has a time series or a time component, we're looking at and saying, well, we want to understand the past because we want to get a good indication of how the future might evolve. So with VisLib, right, what we always put at the forefront of our product is the user. And you can do phenomenal stuff with R and Python, and also with the k-means functions that come with QlikSense. But what we feel is the best user experience is looking at your line chart, going into the Advanced Analytics tab, and just click on a button, forecast, right? And based on your historic data, we're doing a very relatively simple, I would say it's like a 70% forecasting solution that gives you a projection over the next 12 months, including, you know, some standard deviations. And that's the whole story on just a simple line chart. That's how much more powerful charts visualizations can become with the functionalities that we have. And taking this further, right, one thing that I'm also a big fan of, and I hate to admit it, but I love PowerPoint. I love PowerPoint because, although I don't have necessarily any slides, but I love PowerPoint because you can create anything on this, right? You can group boxes, you can take images, modify them. And one thing that was missing always in QlikSense was, well, KPIs. KPIs is almost like a collection of a lot of information that needs to be on the spot communicated. So the native, again, as a comparison, makes it very easy to you. You define your first KPI, maybe a second KPI, you have some formatting options, and there you go. That's a KPI. Now, that's fine, but if you want people to look at this, to trust this, and to interact with this, and look at this on a regular basis, it needs to be a little bit communicated more effectively, right? The same way we're focusing on creating great slides in PowerPoint, the same applies for data analytics and visualizations. So with Vizlib, we took the approach of nailing that part. So drag and dropping the KPI designer, you see the name already implies that you have the ability to completely design it in any way and shape or form you want. You click here in a layer and you can choose from 11 or different layers, such as a text box, and you can position it anywhere you want on the screen. It's free floating, right? You have exact pixel perfect positioning. So I can come in here and I can say, all right, let's give me my 23% and let's make it my key KPI. Wonderful. Maybe a little bigger, right? Because it should be at the front of what we do. Then you continue your KPI experience and you say, well, how about I also want to add an icon? Not a problem here. And maybe I want to add also a bullet chart because, hey, sometimes we want to see where's my KPI? Are we on target? Are we below? Just to give you a little bit more context, what is 23%? And then, of course, the big question is, okay, how did it look like last week or last month? So having a line chart here would actually be quite nice as well, right? And all of a sudden, I'm building my KPI step by step. I can also add an image if I want to. Sometimes it is important to include these things. So let's see what I can find. Image, not from URL, but from media library. Yeah, Vizlib race. Yeah, just put a racetrack there. No context, but you get the idea. And voila, that's it. I'm creating my own KPI step by step. And this might be much more compelling than just a number. And the beautiful thing is, guys, this is fully responsive. If you shrink it, everything shrinks with it. You don't lose anything. This is how powerful this is. And for those of you who don't have the creativity, we're not good product designers, neither am I actually. It's actually an ugly example compared to what some of my colleagues have created. You can actually take a different approach where you can use our templates. Imagine you can click on templates and you can choose from all various KPIs that we have created for you that you can just click on and then start editing the numbers to create your own KPI, right? That's also one thing, making it easier for users and developers to create beautiful dashboards. So with this, it's not just presentation, but also interaction. If you click on 23%, you may want to understand the details underneath it. So you have the ability to add a tooltip to explain the metrics. So if somebody hovers over it, okay, the metric is explained. New users, make it easy for new users to start using dashboards, add tooltips. And you can also add actions. And actions are really powerful because you can start interacting with the visualization itself. Selection in field, or maybe even use it to drill down and navigate to a different sheet. How often do people look at a KPI and they say, all right, 23%, like show me the details, show me how the number is made up of. You click on this and it navigates to the details to the underlying dashboard. So that's in essence, how we work, how we think with Vizlib. And there's a lot of beautiful things that you can create. Only your imagination is your limit. Now, how do we also evolve? Well, sometimes fixed dashboards is not enough. People want to say, hey, can I create my own 3, 4, 5 dimensions and create my own table, please? And maybe even export it to Excel, right? Absolutely legit. So with Vizlib, we have what we call the self-service custom report. And the custom report gives users the ability to pick and choose dimensions and measures exposed to them in almost like a shopping cart approach. Right, shopping, where you go, you put everything in your shopping cart, and then you generate the report on the fly. Any report you want on the fly. Left-hand side, you see dimensions. You click on them, you can add more measures, you can rearrange things if you want to, right? So you can change dimensions, you can change it into a pivot table, why not? Or maybe even a nice little report where you expand things, and you can save all that as a bookmark. So next time you come in, this opens up for you. If you're feeling creative, you can also say, all right, let's do some kind of creative analysis, average sales, but I want to see this by a Sankey chart. So you can also dynamically change the visualizations that you have on the fly, and then look at the data, the same data in a different angle. So really, really powerful. And one thing that we're looking at as well is how can we improve the experience? Well, how about you search? You see the search panel here at the top? What if you don't know what data is there? So you can clear it. And I can actually even use my microphone. I click on the microphone here and I say, show me sales by country. It's recognizing my voice, translates it into search query, and it sees that country is a location dimension, hence it pops up the map for you, which is great. And I continue my journey by channel. So now a second dimension is brought to the mix. So now the best possible visualization is actually a heat map. So also very user-friendly and accessible, but also great for, you know, just searching by voice and having Qlik Sense give you the answer. So that's a self-service report. Sometimes though reports need to actually be perfect and perfectly formatted. And this is the angle that we take with the finance report. And it's actually really, really nice and powerful, because the reason why Excel people don't use Qlik, it's because it's not presented and formatted like in Excel. And unless you unlock this, they will always say, yeah, BI tools are tactical, but they'll never stop using Excel. Well, that was our mission. And we said, all right, let's replicate Excel, at least the presentation. So here we go. You have unorganized hierarchies, you can have subtotals, percentages, and people can explore and can use all the power of the associative engine to drill down, explore, and analyze the data. It's not just, you know, the presentation, but it's also exporting to Excel is fully dynamic. So if you open it, the export, you don't just get the data. That would never be enough. What people truly, truly want is a copy of what they see in Excel to do some ad hoc analysis with formulas and sums and counts. So that's how it looks like. Exactly what you see on the screen is what you get in Excel. And the beautiful thing is, these are our numbers. You can start doing some and doing your own analytics on top of that. Not a problem at all. Makes the finance accounting hearts beat faster. So the journey is interesting, right? So this is kind of like where Vislib was until 2019. In 2020, we thought, what's next? What's next in the analytics experience? We've made it look perfectly good looking, but what is the next step? So we thought, well, if you have a lot of people looking at the same data, if you have people looking at data, they want to act on their insights, on their findings. Such as, for example, they want to have the ability to comment. How about I can just click on a single line item and now bring in the social element here and seeing various comments that have been posted against consultation fee and the period. Maybe I could even approve the adjustment. So you can introduce actions, commentary, being ability to edit and collaborate on top of your data. And that introduces the last package that we had this year, which is Write Back. And Write Back is picking up, it expands the use cases that you can think of with using Qlik Sense massively, because now for the first time, you're able to edit data in Qlik in your BI tool without leaving the BI tool. So in a very simple form, the presentation is unspectacular because it's just a table, but you'll see that the power behind this is immense. So I used here an example from a manufacturing industry where different production lines, different items are being produced in timelines. And on the bottom, you have the control panel. So you can actually come here and now you can start steering and changing and editing and actioning on top of your data. You can click on different lines. You can change what people are producing. You can, increase the quantity and change the shift and add even a comment if you want. And then you write the data and you see that any change that you're doing is changing your Qlik Sense app for everybody who's seeing the data. And now, all of a sudden, you're bringing the flow into your analytics and making Qlik Sense and analytics truly actionable. And that can go on a lot of use cases. Very often, we have finance and adjustments, but that's also one very, very perfect example. And if you're interested to hear more about it, it's a separate 1-hour demo where you can go over various use cases. But just to inspire you a little bit, how about planning and budgeting in Qlik Sense? How about I'm looking at my numbers on the left-hand side, we're having a meeting, and I'm saying, Asya, we've done really, really great here. We're hitting the actual versus budget on consultation fee. However, I'm seeing a big delta in support. All right, let's reduce the budget in support by 50%. Reduction after meeting today. So you see now that we're forming an action based on the insights that we're seeing, and we're posting that into the system so that now support budget has been reduced. And I can also trace everything. You can see here, Martin Mahler adjusted it on that given day, so no information is lost. You can click on it. You can actually see all my adjustments that I've ever done as part of various demos. And so really, really, really exciting. One question I want to preempt, because it always comes up, the data that we're editing or adjusting is being stored in QVDs, on a SQL server, or a data source of your choice. You can control all that. You can also store your changes into a CSV file. So it's very dynamic, extremely flexible, as with everything at Vizlib. So I hope you like this quick, short demo. And if there's any kind of thing that sparked your interest, speak to our partner, Agilos, and they'll be more than happy to arrange a more deeper session. But yeah, Vizlib and Qlik can truly make a difference. And honestly, is much better than Tableau, Power BI, and other tools. And the last bit, and I'm seeing that when what our customers are doing with collaboration and write back, you may not need any other system anymore. You can centralize as much as possible in Qlik Sense using write back as well. And we're here to add more value to your Qlik Sense investment. So with this, thank you for the attention, and I'm available for question and answers.
Thank you so much, Martin. I think this was really useful. It was a really good presentation. First time we are actually presenting to the European institutions. And I think many people are interested in it, especially because the Commission cannot just install random extensions when they don't know if Qlik will support them or not. So it's a tricky one. So Vizlib could solve a lot of those issues. And despite the timing issues, attendees actually stayed. Almost all of them. So thank you so much. It was really good.
So you addressed an interesting thing there, right? Third-party extensions. So one thing I'd like to stress here is we're a big company. So we have 100 employees. We have over 800 customers across the globe. We're here to stay. Secondly, it's normal that now companies more and more invest in their ecosystem and make the ecosystem accessible to their customers. Salesforce is doing this. Also, Microsoft has a lot of third-party add-ons. It's just a little bit newer to Qlik, but not unusual in the industry. But yeah, we have governmental references as well that we're more than happy to share.
Great. Okay. So I would say to everybody, because we already have 30 minutes over the timing, thank you so much for joining us today. I think I replied to most of the questions, but the ones I didn't reply to, I will send an email. Slides and the recording of the session will be sent to everybody as well. So yeah, I wish you a nice evening, everybody. Thanks to all the speakers and all the participants. Have a nice evening, afternoon.
Vielen Dank. Aloha.
Vielen Dank.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Danke
Bye,
alle.
everyone.
Bye everyone, and thanks for attending.